welcome back to our F1 episode. If you haven't noticed yet, we're doing things a little differently, doing little episodes hitting each of the major sports. And now we're on to F1. So thank you for tuning in. If you haven't checked out the other ones, whether it's football, baseball, or NASCAR, go check those out. But like I said, this is F1, the week 2 of the American triple header, Mexico City Grand Prix, the highest city in elevation. And I think the altitude got to some of these drivers this weekend. We'll get into some of that, but they tried killing each other pretty much. So, you know, there's that to break down. But Carlos Sainz won, dominated after a little bit of a battle in the first 4 turns with Verstappen. Let's just start there. Let's start with the breakdown because I do want to get. I mean, obviously we're going to talk a lot about Verstappen in this episode.
Let's talk about Sainz first, though. Let's talk about Sainz.
Yeah, what a good drive for him. Once he got past a little kerfuffle with some other cars in lap 1, the race was his. He just kind of took off.
This is the best weekend Carlos Sainz has had all year. This is his potential, I think. This is the best version of Carlos Sainz. You've seen it some when he was in McLaren. Obviously, he's had a few brilliant races for Ferrari, this one included. Absolutely had the measure of Charles Leclerc all weekend. I'm a Leclerc fan. I can easily admit that. Carlos Sainz was flat out the better driver this weekend. Yeah. And this is the kind of race where it makes you sad that he's in a Williams next year watching it, because how is a guy this talented getting sent to Williams? Meanwhile, Sergio Perez stays in a Red Bull, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Just the drive from Carlos Sainz, absolutely incredible. Did not put a foot wrong the entire weekend. Got the pole. Mexico, too, is one of those tracks where it's hard to win from pole because a lot of times you get passed on the way into turn 1. And he did. Verstappen had him into turn 1, and he said no and got him right back. Sent it up the inside, said this
sent it through the grass.
Yeah, said this, but then gave that spot back, but then overtook him again. Said this is how you pass Max Verstappen. Yeah. Look out, Lando Norris. But
yeah, I mean, I kind of said last week that I feel like we're about to see like a little bit of a run from Sainz here, just because the performance he gave at Austin and now this. Ferrari made some changes in the brake to their car, look a little faster. You've talked about their strategy in garage and engineer changes and things like that. Ferrari looks good. Sainz, we know the position he's in. Now he assigned a seat, but I don't think he's really driving for the seat he's in next year. He's driving for a Red Bull spot,
2026
Mercedes spot, or whoever. He's driving for that. Maybe. I don't think this is going to happen, but maybe Ferrari spot when Hamilton retires, if that's soon.
You never know how much longer he has left. Not everyone's Fernando Alonso.
Exactly. And Hamilton, I mean, he's made it clear that he wants to do things outside of being an F1 driver. He has other interests and hobbies that he'd like to pursue at a young age. So he's going to be one of those guys to retire at a younger age, I feel like.
I think if he wins his 8th, he's done immediately, no matter how far away it is.
I would agree with that. So, Sainz is driving for his next seat, not the next stop with Williams, but his one after that. So you're probably going to see, and he knows he's going to Williams and he's not going to have the equipment to show his driving prowess. So he's going to do it while he still can in the Ferrari, and that's what you're seeing. But let's move on to Verstappen. From turn one, he was trying to just like elbows out. I mean, Dale Earnhardt the whole race. So I mean, I know we have a little differing perspectives, but I'm gonna let you start.
Okay, so the first move Verstappen does on Norris, they're even. Norris goes off. It's touch and go for the dumb ahead of the apex rule, which we're going to talk about a good bit today probably. But that one, I think, is deserving of a 5-second penalty, not a 10-second penalty. It is wrong, but it is not a 10-second penalty. However, the up the inside at turn 8 where you go either you back out or we're both going into the wall is just dangerous. It's flat out dangerous. At some point, you have to realize you are driving in that area of the track, 160-mile-an-hour car. Yeah. Like you can't just go either you lift or we're going in the wall.
Which has been his mindset for years.
It has to be a penalty. Yeah. And I think I will say I love Max. I love Max as a driver. I think he's very shrewd. He's good at knowing the rules, but he also has this where you saw it a lot earlier in his career. He's gotten better. He's kind of honed it into being able to take more advantage of it. But occasionally still this kind of psycho Verstappen defense of not even. Yeah. I don't even think he's less. I think he's less concerned with losing that position and more. He's like, I want Lando Norris to have me in his head all the time. Yeah. And this is how you get in someone's head. But it's stepping over the line. I think you've crossed it there, and the first instant I'm fine with. I know it's a penalty, but also I don't take an issue with it. Penalties happen. You try to be aggressive, but the second one, that's outrageous. It's dangerous. you cannot do that.
Yeah, how the FIA didn't even look at that second little incident is
They
beyond
did. They
me.
gave him a 10-second penalty for it.
Oh, was that the
Yeah, that was the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
That's how he ended up with 20 seconds. Of
yeah,
penalties.
but like you've got at that point you've got to do something. Like I'm not saying park the guy for that, but I think if he does the same thing next week, I say you park him, put him in the garage. Like you can't do that, dude. Like you're done.
I think you have to step it up. I think next week, if you see something like that from him in Brazil, I think you go 10 seconds, stop, go. You send him into the pits, you make him stop for 10 seconds, you send him back out. It's progressive increments, and normally Verstappen's been good about once you're very clear about where that line is, he's not usually going to reattack that line. Like he's usually going to stay. He might get right up to the line. He might be millimeters away from that line, but he usually is not going to cross it again.
I disagree. You've seen him do things like this early in his career, and yeah, he stopped for a little bit, but he won all those races, won those championships. Feels like he's on top of the sport. Feels like he can't be touched. Now he's starting to do things like this again.
You watch him I think you watch him like 2019 to 2021 Verstappen. There's a difference between that Verstappen and like Toro Rosso 2016 Max Verstappen. And the aggression versus recklessness debate is such an interesting one with Max, because you see instances like Italy 2021 where he ends up basically on top of Lewis Hamilton. That one I think is aggression. And then you look at Jeddah 2021, or this instance, the second one versus Norris, where he's like, we're going to crash. Yeah. That's recklessness. And he's back and forth on this line so many times, but the thing I like about him is he doesn't beat around the bush about it. That's who he is. I think he's the perfect villain for F1.
Oh, he was 100% the Darth Vader, and he knows it. He's owning it.
He's he's owned it, and I really respect him for that. I really like Verstappen as a driver. I think he's an incredible driver, but this is just part of it. This part of what comes with it is occasionally you're going to get this flat-out recklessness, and I think at the same time, one, it cannot be allowed, but also I don't think parking him is the right answer for it either. I think you gradually increase some penalties. You go 10 seconds, stop, go if this happens again. Now, if he just starts for the rest of the season just punting Norris off, then you park him. But as of right now, I think although outrageous, it's not a parkable offense. And you look at instances that have happened over his career, like obviously Silverstone 2021 when he gets sent to the barrier 51 Gs with Hamilton. That one's a huge debate still to this day, and it's the hyper aggression of Verstappen. It's the I'm never going to yield ever that makes him such a good driver, that killer instinct. And so I really respect it, but I think this was a step too far.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think we're going to see anything like this again the rest of the year from him. I feel like he kind of knows now. But like even on his radio after they gave him the 10-second penalty, he was kind of just like, yeah, like whatever.
And that's what I like. I know it's outrageous, but that's what I love about him. You look at I don't remember which race it was earlier this year, but they say, oh yeah, Max, it's gonna be a 5-second penalty when he overtook someone off the track. And he's like, oh yeah, send the stewards my regards, and then just drove off and pulled the 5 seconds. Like that's just who Max is.
Yeah, but at some point, like my takeaway on the radio is like, oh, he knew he was getting the penalty. Like he did that on purpose, and like knew he was getting a penalty while he was doing it, and you just kind of like did it. But like
he does it to get in the head of Lando Norris.
Right, but at some point,
you're not going up the outside of Max ever again.
Yeah, but what is it worth? Like it's not worth that much at some point, and you've got to realize that.
This might sound outrageous. I think part of it is Lando Norris proving that affects him.
Yeah.
Because you look at Austria earlier this year, that's also on Max, in my opinion. And stuff like this. Lewis Hamilton in 2021, when they were going against each other, sure, Max did these incidents, but also Hamilton kept going for it. I don't think Norris has that same kind of, I'm going to keep pushing this even if you're going to run me off the road. That's why I think you see Max give a berth to drivers like Sainz, like Leclerc, like Hamilton when he races them, because he knows they're going to keep their foot in there and they're both going to crash. Yeah. Whereas with Norris has yielded every single time. So I know you never want to tell your driver to, take yourself out. But I think at the end of the day, if you're Norris, eventually you're going to have to keep your foot in there to prove that Max can't just push you off the road whenever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Norris has got to do something. And it's not NASCAR. I'm not saying he goes and dumps the guy next week.
No.
But he's going to have to do something
Oscar
to show.
Piastri said that would be fun.
Yeah. So that's a good segue. Colapinto, I guess, fell asleep at the wheel, looked in his mirror, realized Piastri had to move on him, and decided,
Oh no!
no, you don't. And then about killed both of them. Very, very late move. I don't think there was any intent behind it. I just think it was a late move. They moved on quickly.
Yeah. And then Perez just sent Lawson into the grass. And then Lawson was like, "No, you're not," and then ran into Perez. And then later Lawson passed him back and flipped him off. And I felt like I was not watching F1. Like this isn't usually what you see from F1. All the beating and banging, cars running each other off the road, and I think a lot of this is honestly on
last week.
Sound weird, but no,
last week.
It's on the regulation as a whole. It's not purely last week. The FIA has now set a precedent that if you kamikaze dive bomb someone, as long as you yourself stay on the racetrack and are ahead at the apex of the corner, you can say, "I don't care about this other guy," and just run him off the road.
No, 100%.
And that is the dumbest driving standard.
It's
like F1 fans all the time are like, "Oh, NASCAR drivers can't pass without running into each other." Your drivers can't pass without sending a guy into the grass because your regulations have set it up that way.
It's the FIA's fault, but it's because last week, because if I have a cookie jar and that cookie jar sits on my counter for 10 years and every time you open it, there's no cookies in it, but I put cookies in that cookie jar. If I tell you, "Hey, Micah, there's cookies in this cookie jar," what are you going to do? You're going to grab cookies. So last week was them telling them, "Hey, there's cookies in this jar," and you've seen them all reach for cookies at once. And that's what's happened. But I don't think it's going to happen this season, but I think there will be an amendment to the rule. Didn't the FIA come out and say something kind of along the lines of, So I feel like there's going to be an amendment to the rule after this season in the off season about the ahead at the apex rule. And it'll probably be worse, honestly, knowing the FIA. But it could be better. So we'll have to find out.
Halfway down the straightaway or something.
Yeah, as long as how about we just put like bumpers on, like make them bumper cars. Let's just try that for a season and see what happens.
I don't know. It seems like no one can pass cleanly right now unless your name is Carlos Sainz from this weekend. But also great racing from the two Mercedes drivers, by the way. Great racing from them for most of this race. Not a ton of contact.
Are we going to talk about Leclerc last few laps?
That almost gave me a heart attack. Listen, between him losing it at the last corner, almost decking into the wall, and what was going on with Tyler Reddick at the same time in the NASCAR race, I was about to lose my mind.
Yeah, fun fact, 26 seconds on TV. I don't know how delayed they were on TV, especially with the F1 being in Mexico City. 26 seconds separated Sainz taking the checkered flag and Tyler Reddick taking the checkered flag, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Back to Leclerc, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would have made me so sad. Thankfully, he came home third, but heart and mouth for sure there. Someone made a fun edit. I don't know how much you know about Formula E, but they have attack mode where you can like go wide and get attack mode and your car speeds up. So someone made like the attack mode graphic on the runoff for Leclerc when he's getting attack mode down the straightaway, which I thought was funny. But yeah, close shave there for Charles for sure. But let's talk about the championships now.
Right. So you have 4 races left in the season: Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. And 2 sprints.
Brazil and Qatar.
Exactly. So you have 4 races, 2 sprints, 6 races, if you will, to decide the drivers and constructors championships. Right now, Verstappen, Norris, pretty much the only 2 in contention. Verstappen at 362, Norris at 315.
Technically.
Leclerc is at 291.
Technically, it's not going to happen. But technically.
Right. There's a world where he gets second, but I don't think there's a world.
That would be so funny.
I don't think there's a world where he gets first. So who do you think, with these next 4 races and 2 sprint races, wins the drivers' championship?
Verstappen.
I agree. 100%.
It's still it's a 47-point gap still leaving Mexico, and that's only like 8 less than it was after Miami. So if you've only pulled 8 in that time, do you expect me to believe you're going to pull 40 plus in 4 races and 2 sprints? No.
Yeah, and you needed Verstappen to have 2, possibly 3 big misses. Well, Mexico City was one of those big misses. You didn't capitalize. Yeah. You didn't win the race.
Well, also, I think it needs to be pointed out that Oscar Piastri kind of let Lando Norris down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because qualifying 16th, being as far back as he was, that could have been more points taken off Verstappen easily. And last week as well in Austin. He could have easily been up there taking points off Verstappen again. So if you're McLaren, you need Piastri to really step up right now because you never know how close you're going to get by the end of the year. But I still think that Verstappen takes the drivers. I think it would be hilarious if Leclerc passed Norris for second, considering how much they've manufactured the Verstappen versus Norris championship all year if Leclerc passes him. But I do think Verstappen takes it. As far as the Constructors' Championship,
Here we go.
I think Ferrari takes this.
I agree. I think, like you said about Piastri kind of being nowhere recent, Sainz really coming into form now. Leclerc
has been definitely
being
consistent
just
all year.
being Leclerc all year. Ferrari's cars looks like it's on par with McLaren, if not a little better right now, as far as the last 2 weeks, we'll say. So I agree. I think Ferrari kind of continues this momentum, and I think they get it done only because I think it's close, but I think it's because of Piastri's missteps in these few weeks we're seeing.
And you've seen Piastri. I know he won the sprint at Qatar last year, but he's also struggled with tire wear a lot through his F1 career, and Qatar is a place that will chew through tires like no one's business. So I do think it's funny that McLaren could either win both championships or neither of them. I do think that is funny. I think Ferrari takes Constructors. I think that it's pretty pathetic that Red Bull is nowhere in the Constructors, considering where Verstappen is. And let's talk about Sergio Perez.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
So this is the home race. It's what you've been waiting for all year. This is what a lot of people said is the only reason he's still in the Red Bull is because they want the Mexican fans and that experience. And Sergio Perez delivered a 17th place finish.
Almost dead last with the DNF cars.
He was last. He was last of the classified finishers. How are you this bad? This is not... I want to say this is not a bad driver because from his days at Racing Point at Force India, this is such a good midfield driver and consistently got the best out of those cars. And it just looks like he's completely forgotten how to drive a Formula One car. At this point, if you're Red Bull, it's essentially self-sabotage not to get someone else in there.
Yeah, I don't think they should have, at the halfway point in the year when they said, oh, we're going to stick with Perez for this year, I think right then and there they should have cut ties with him and had whoever step up, whether it's Tsunoda
they had
or
a mess in
whoever.
the second team, too, because they're like, oh, Daniel Ricciardo's coming back. Daniel Ricciardo might be the replacement for Perez. Ricciardo doesn't look good. Tsunoda's beating him. Then Liam Lawson comes in, immediately starts outperforming Tsunoda, and then Lawson beat Perez in both qualifying and the race.
Yeah, I think Lawson is your second Red Bull driver next year.
He better be.
Yeah. He's
been in the system for so long, been so fast, has delivered every time you've put him in a Formula One car, and he's not. Also, F1 fans losing their mind about Liam Lawson flipping off Perez going down the straight.
I love it.
Perez ran him off the road.
Yeah.
What do you expect from the guy? Maybe that's coming from NASCAR fans, but if someone in NASCAR ran another dude off the road, then they hit each other, you bet he's getting flipped off.
The least they would do is flip each other off. The most they do is put them into outer space. So, I mean...
Especially Liam Lawson, it's got to be at least slightly personal there with the guy that is in what in Lawson's eyes could be his seat and is not performing at all. So, I mean, I personally would not have done that, but I think that it's not an evil move like all these F1 fans are making it seem right now. So, relax on Liam Lawson. The guy is an incredible talent. I think he deserves that seat for sure. But let's talk about Brazil.
Let's get into it.
Sprint race this weekend. Brazil, always one of the best races every year. We love Sao Paulo, an absolute incredible track every time. So
who's winning the sprint race? We'll just do straight up winner for that.
You know what? Give me Carlos Sainz to win the sprint race.
Okay, I like that.
I like the form Sainz is on right now. We've seen he's great at Sao Paulo before. Obviously, the incredible drive he had for McLaren there in 2019. He loves this place. I think that Sainz takes your sprint. So, who do you think?
I think Max Verstappen takes your sprint.
I considered that too. I was between Sainz and Verstappen there.
I think Verstappen takes it. I know the Red Bull's not as good as the McLaren right now or whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's Max Verstappen. Even you could argue, Sainz straight up passed him over the weekend. But, I mean, other than those penalties or whatever, I think Leclerc passes him. But I really think he holds third without a lot of those penalties. Maybe
the
fourth.
Pace of Norris, I think.
Norris we're kind of running him down. But he's still elevating that car. And in a sprint race, when you don't have as much time to run a guy down, if he just gets up there and elbows out like we know Verstappen will, then I'm taking him in a sprint race.
All right, so as far as the actual race, for my podium, I'm taking Lando Norris to win this weekend. I think the McLaren's going to be great here, especially in full race pace. I think you see them really step up. I think Piastri rebounds. I think he finishes second. I think McLaren gets much-needed Constructors' Championship points back this weekend. And then in third, give me Lewis Hamilton. I know the Mercedes has kind of been nowhere. I know Hamilton hasn't been on the best form necessarily, but he loves this place. It's where he won his first championship all the way back in 2008. He had the incredible drive here in 2021. He is absolutely incredible here. I think he brings home a podium.
Yeah, I also have Norris in my one spot. I do think the McLaren's the better car. I think Norris is going to have the best pace. I have Max Verstappen in the 2 spot. I just like the same reasons I have winning the sprint race. And then for the same reasons you have Sainz winning the sprint race, I have him third. I just think Ferrari's going to be up there with Piastri. I think it's going to be a mix of Sainz, Piastri, Leclerc, and that mix, but I have Sainz ahead of those 3. So I have him at the 3 spot in mind. But yeah, I'm excited. Brazil's a good race.
Yes.
Like I said, so.
I believe this will be your first year watching Brazil. Right?
No, I have watched Brazil.
Okay, you have watched Brazil. I was gonna say you're in for an experience
because Brazil's one of the ones that always came on during when I was watching TV.
Brazil's incredible. It's one of the best races every year. So we're both super excited for it. But that's it for the F1 episode this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll have college football and pro together in an episode for you as well, and then obviously World Series going on. We'll have MLB. If you haven't seen the NASCAR episode, go check that out. It was an incredible weekend of NASCAR. I, as a Tyler Reddick fan, loved it a lot. So,
racing as a whole,
yes,
fantastic.
Racing was great. Thank you for tuning in. Keegan's gonna try not to knock the mic off the table, but we will see you guys next time.